All right, so today I'm going to be discussing the Titanic versus modern cruise ships, and I'm sure everyone has seen this photo and everyone is always so shocked. The Titanic completely dwarfed by the modern cruise ship. While we also understand these modern cruise ships look absolutely hideous, I want to get into the idea of these modern cruise ships. Why do they look so ugly? The new one, I mean, they somehow found a way to make it even more ugly. They added a freaking helmet to it, the icon of the seas. If you take a look at that, I'll be honest, the icon of the seas, looking at some of the renderings, it is really impressive, but the reality of the situation, people wondering, why does the Titanic look so small in comparison to a modern cruise ship? The main reason is because I think this all goes back to the Titanic movie and James Cameron depicting Titanic as like 100 times better than every ship in the early 1900s, when that just simply was not the case. I mean, it was better than the Olympic, but it was barely bigger than that. Even the Britannic was slightly bigger than the Titanic just a few years later. So it wasn't like Titanic was this gigantic ship that the 97 movie made it out to be. And I understand why the movie made it out that way. You know, it's got to be magical. I get it. They did a great job of capturing that. But the first thing I think people think it's like this major, huge thing, when really it was barely bigger than the Olympic, and it was surpassed by its younger sister, the Britannic, in terms of size. So that's the first thing. When it comes to the way these modern ships look, you know, I would say it certainly looks like a floating apartment building. It's just not pretty to look at. And even the people that build these things admit, yeah, these things are butt ugly to look at. It's not about the look from the outside. It's the inside. And this new ship, the Icon of the Seas, does have some pretty crazy stuff on the interior of it. When you look at all the different renderings, I mean, look at that pool. What is going on there? That surfing thing is always such a gimmick. Yeah, I've never. Does anyone really get excited to go on that thing? It just looks so cheap to me. But certainly that's a sweet pool kind of right in the center of it. The water slides on cruise ships, I think you're doing too much with that. Do we really need, we're on a cruise ship. Do we really need to have a water slide? Is it really that important? I mean, what is that configuration? That's on a cruise ship nowadays. This is the new biggest cruise ship officially setting sail in 2024 on its maiden voyage. It's like they have their own apartment complex, and on top of it is a pool. I mean, there's just so much going on with these, and then you compare it to Titanic, it's night and day. The reason I like Titanic so much and other people like Titanic is because it actually looks like a ship. And the thing that I love the most about Titanic, you know, in terms of experience and like if I was on it, yeah, would it be nice to have a balcony? Sure. In terms of looking at it, it is not aesthetically pleasing. It makes it look like an apartment building. The portholes are a lot better. And the other thing with Titanic that I always liked was the square windows, like right along B deck. That really symbolized like first class, and I just loved that part of the ship. And again, Titanic actually looks like a ship. When it comes to actual comparisons, you can see the tonnage of Titanic versus the average cruise ship versus this was the former biggest cruise ship. It seems like there's a newer, bigger cruise ship built every year, but I mean, the newer one is like 5 times the tonnage. Length, it's not that horrible, but it's still almost double the length. Height, it's more than double the height, and you can just see the staterooms more than triple on one of the biggest cruise ships. Passenger decks double, passengers more than double. Basically the same speed. And then the cost estimate today, that's interesting. They say the Titanic would cost $400 million. This might have been done in 2018. This image, 2018 or 2019, because with inflation, I would say Titanic 2. But the thing is with Titanic 2, they're adding another deck to it and they're getting new lifeboats, so it would cost more. The other big difference in terms of these newer cruise ships, they have the newer, you know, fully enclosed lifeboats. They're virtually never used. You know, I can't even tell you the last time I remember lifeboats being deployed from a cruise ship because they just don't sink. But those are just some comparisons there. I just don't know what they were thinking with that front thing. I don't even know what that's supposed to be. Some type of dome. It's like the ugly version of the Grand Staircase dome. That's what that is. It just looks so ugly. I mean, who puts that thing on and thinks it's a good design? But again, even the shipbuilders say on these newer ships, oh, we're talking about the experience you have on the ship. That's all that anyone cares about. And while it is I'm sure a very fun experience, cruises are really a good time. Just looking at it, okay, that's a pretty nice photo. Yeah, it looks a little bit better lit up, but it's never going to replace the portholes. When all the portholes are lit up on Titanic, it's just so much more beautiful than this thing. This looks like a giant This looks like a water park threw up onto the top of a ship. That's what it just looks like, a weird concoction. Like some type of LA party just threw up all over on top of the ship, and then they built a giant, apartment complex and put propellers at the bottom of it, and it just started just taking off like a boat. That's what I'm seeing from this image. But there you can see the back of it. Is that another one of those surfing things? Who uses those surfing things? They got like 5 of them on this ship. I don't understand. That is a sweet pool, though. Wow, there's 2 nice pools on it, too. Like, there's one at the way bottom. Yeah, so they definitely do have luxury on this ship. I mean, listen, we're comparing 1912 versus 2023. We're comparing $400 million versus $3 billion in terms of cost. It's really hard to compare them. I do think it's interesting. What if they built a luxury version of the Titanic? There wouldn't be any balconies, because I just think balconies are aesthetically not good to look at, but you would have a luxury version of the Titanic where all the rooms would be beautiful. You just build like a bigger version of it. That would be something that's interesting. The Titanic 2 is not that. The Titanic 2 is like a replica. And I understand that as well, but I've had several, big time questions about Titanic 2. If you're talking about an exact replica, that means third class is going to be complete crap, especially in 2023 standards. It would be like a 1 or a 2 time thing for a Titanic fan to go on, but you really don't want to go on in third class. Those bunks are pretty much way worse than any cabins on any modern cruise ship, so that it's like, does it turn into a floating museum? Is third class ever really used that much? Because this is an ocean liner. Everyone's used to beautiful cruise ships, and the cabins are virtually, I would consider them very similar to like a 4-star hotel room. That's what most cabins are. I mean, obviously they have the beautiful suites and things like that, but with cruise ships, you certainly understand their appeal. But just like that one image where people are shocked that Titanic is dwarfed so much. Again, I go back to the 97 movie, and a lot of casual people think Titanic was this gigantic ship. It was barely bigger than the Olympic, and it would have been surpassed 2 years later anyways. It was not a giant ship. Yes, it was the biggest ship at the time when it sank, but it was not dwarfing other ocean liners at the time. So I think that's really the big thing there. And then with the modern cruise ships, I mean, they're just vacation vessels. That's all they are. They're just floating resorts. So, but it's like you would think there'd be a little bit better design. How is that the new one? It just looks that one even looks uglier than most of the other normal ones that they have. What do they have? Oasis of the Seas. Maybe I'll try and look up all the cruise ships they have where it's like something of the seas. They've got like 5 or 6 of them, I think. But either way, that's just kind of a comparison. Titanic versus modern cruise ships. I mean, you can't even compare them. Titanic was not built to be a luxury cruise ship. It was built to be a ship. Its main form of function was to transport people and transport mail. RMS, that's what it stands for. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.